Hello, everybody. It's John Johnston with your stupid play of the week. And maybe it's not really stupid, but it certainly is controversial. And I'm talking about Cooper DeJean's punt return that was brought back in the Minnesota Iowa game and resulted in Minnesota winning and Iowa losing. And it was pretty amazing. My family went over to my oldest son's house because he invited us over for chili, and he makes really good chili. And so we were all there watching the game together, including a bunch of people rooting for Minnesota. When that play happened, we were all shocked. I've been watching Minnesota football for decades, and they have lost in ways that are unbelievable. That Nebraska fans have only experienced in the past few years under that guy that we fired, the kick to the wrong side of the field against Michigan State. And you're going, that stuff has happened to the Gophers over their lifespan constantly. But here was another example, and then we were all completely shocked that the play was brought back and that the punt return touchdown was disallowed, and Minnesota would go on to win the game. Now, here's the thing. You can go out and look for the plays. I'm not going to include them in this. I was going to do a fancy, nice video, but I don't have time, honestly. I ran out of time. Minnesota is leading 12-10. They punt back to Iowa with about a minute 40 left. Iowa, the ball is coming down about the 46-yard line. Cooper DeJean is running at it. He is pointing with one hand at the ball, and he is yelling at his teammates to get out of the way so it doesn't hit him and become a turnover. He is waving his other hand, his other arm, and that's apparently where the officials had a problem. Now, when the play is brought back, it's very clearly announced on TV that they've called an invalid signal. And people went insane. They've been going, okay, Iowa fans have gone insane because they think, well, he never called fair catch because you have to put your arm over your head to call a fair catch. That is not the call they made. They made a call of invalid signal. And here we have this article where an Iowa guy and a Minnesota guy got on like a Zoom call with the Big Ten, the NCAA, and they actually explained what happened, why they made that call the way they did. Now, you see this all the time, people complaining on social media that, oh, well, what the coaches have to explain things and the players have to explain things. Why don't the officials ever have to explain things? Well, here they did. They probably didn't have to do this, but they took the time to do it. And I think it's a good idea because, well, it's not going to make anybody from Iowa happy, and it hasn't. But it does show a level of accountability. And I will say this about officials. There's this constant, idea that this official should be fired, that official should be fired. That guy should never work another game. What do you think? We have like an endless supply of officials out there that are just standing in line, taking a number to officiate your games? We started destroying our officials years ago when the parents screamed at them when they were seventh graders. And we don't have enough officials to officiate high school sports. So it's not going to get any better from here. So this whole idea that we just have massive numbers. One of the things I would love to see is a reality TV show where regular people or media people, sports media people, are forced to officiate some kind of game. I don't care if it's basketball. Maybe if they're a basketball media member, they have to officiate a game. Or get some NFL players out there to play 7-on-7 or flag football. They don't have to be in full pads. And then have like guys that sit on our ass on a couch like you and me officiate those games, and we can all make fun of them, and they can be voted out of the island or whatever the hell it is. I think that would be an amazingly interesting reality TV show. Okay, back to the Iowa thing. So the ruling was not that he didn't call fair catch. It was that he called an invalid signal. And in the middle of this article, they explained all the things that people are complaining about. For example, was the play reviewable? According to Ferentz, after the game, officials told him they were checking to see if DeJean stepped out of bounds. But the Big Ten and NCAA said that didn't matter. Once you go to replay, you have a chance to look at all aspects of the play. And this is in the rule book. Listen, the NCAA football rule book for 2023 is free. You can download it as a PDF. I will put the link to it in the show description. And the thing about that is nobody actually ever reads these things because they change yearly. And honestly, they're complicated. The NFL rulebook is some like kind of lawyer document from hell. NCAA rulebook isn't that bad. Well, it's not as bad as the NFL rulebook. But you can go out and look at those. And there were a lot of things flying around on Twitter that were screenshots of rules that were either out of date, or they were not the right rules that these people were referring to. So, according to Rule 12, Section 3, Article 4, see that? How complicated that is already? There are 7 reviewable plays. The 7th item says receiving team advancing after a fair catch signal is reviewable. Both men on the call clarified that an invalid fair catch signal is also reviewable, even though that is not explicitly stated. In other words, they're giving them some leeway. And honestly, I think there's another part of the rule book that basically said a lot of this is up to the official's discretion. Like they're not there is a piece in the rule book that says these are reviewable plays. But then there's another small tiny paragraph that says, it's up to the official's discretion what they're going to review. Here's the next complaint. Was Cooper DeJean's pointing motion illegal? And they go through this, and I will put a link to this article in the description of the video also. So if you want to read the full article, you can. And one of the officials says, we allow the receiving team to point with no waving to where the ball is for their teammates. In this situation, we allowed the right hand to point to the ball. But if the other hand, if there's any waving signal, it constitutes an invalid signal. Now, it also states that the rule was put into place to protect the returner and also defended the idea that even a small waving motion constitutes an invalid fair catch signal. Basically, what they're saying is, listen, a lot of the fair catch rules it's probably been historically throughout all of football, all the way back to 1869, the most modified rule in all of football. Fair catch. Because it used to be you could just kill people, almost literally, on fair catches because you could just clobber them. They're there looking up for the ball like this. And I will tell you from experience, it's really fun to hit a guy when he's not looking. It's not really good for their health. And that's one of the things they're trying to get out of the game is like people killing other people and blowing them up because it is bad for your health long term. But it's been the most modified rule in all of history. One of the official continues on saying, I can assure you, you'll have returners trying to trick the kicking team players. And that's the intent of the rule. Fortunate or unfortunate, if there's waving motion, and I think you can clearly look at the video and it's indisputable that's a waving motion, then by rule, it's an invalid fair catch signal, which causes the ball to become dead. Now, there's a lot of complaints. There's a lot of stuff going back and forth on Twitter that, there's a lot of plays where the guy's waving at the ball and then there's no foul for that. Why didn't they call it then? Okay, number one, there's not a lot of plays where the punt returner is waving and then he fields the ball. I mean, good for Cooper DeJean. Like I said earlier, he made an incredible and fantastic play, but it wasn't legal. Unless you're an Iowa fan, then it was legal. And listen, they didn't call the flag. Okay, we all saw there was a lot of egregious holding going on Saturday. A lot of like tackling defensive linemen going on. You saw it in the Nebraska Northwestern game. You saw it in the Minnesota and Iowa game. You can see it in every game. They don't call those sometimes too. You know what else they don't call? They don't call disconcerting signals. Like when a defensive lineman or a defensive linebacker is clapping to throw off the cadence, they don't call that very often either. They don't call it every time they could. So they didn't call this another situation. They do sometimes. And there's actually examples on YouTube. I'll include one of those in the show description where this same type of play was brought back, much to the chagrin of the people who lost a punt return TD because of it. And then there's this piece at the end of this. Why was Tim O'Day the lead referee for this crew? There's this constant, the officials are betting on this. This is rigged. Somebody got to him. Again, this goes back to my earlier thing about what do you think? There's a big endless supply of officials that are qualified to do this. I would really like to hear from any one of you who would be willing to go get this job and put up with all of the shit that goes along with it. I saw people on complaining about the NFL officials, and we all do this. That's fine. But this constant, they should be fired or never ref another game. Really? There's like 10 of them left. So real quick, there was a Twitter, one of the guys that did the Iowa guy that did this article, put it on Twitter. And here's the responses from, I'm guessing, mostly Iowa fans and those that want to taunt them. Although I didn't reply to this thread. Here's some of the responses from the people. Like Iowa Mama Hawk. I am not going to blot these out because if you put them on Twitter, that they're public. Okay. Do they ever check refs on betting history? Yeah. Because the implication is everybody's dirty because you would be. And then there's Aaron. If a call takes more than 5 minutes to explain and fields question about, it's a bad call. After 20 minutes, someone needs to be fired. There's the guy. There's the firing guy. And then there's so they used a judgment, not definitive. But pretty much everything about calling penalties is how much of it is definitive. You have human beings playing a game of which weird things happen, and you have human beings officiating it. When AI takes over, I'm certain we'll all be glad that everything will be correct forever and nothing ever done wrong. So we'll be bored talking about our sports that's perfectly judged. Here's the thing about this, that not one of these people, like there's a long of these, okay? There's a lot of these. And then there's an ad or something. There's a lot of these. And really, here's Nipperati. This needs to be investigated. I'm hearing Tim O'Day is a Nebraska alum, and the replay official is a mini alum. For God's sakes, whatever. Go meet with some of these guys and talk to them sometimes. They're pretty decent people, the officials. I know they probably don't seem like it, but they are. Here's the other thing that not one single freaking one of these people have mentioned. Iowa got the ball back at the 46-yard line with 1:30 left. And what did they do? They got sacked for -7 yards. Then their quarterback threw a incompletion, and his third play of that drive was an interception that ended the game. Now, Iowa had maybe 2 total yards in the second half. You know what none of these people have done? None of them have basically bothered to say, boy, our offense sucks, and that's why we lost the game. None of them bothered to say, whoa, you should never put a game in the hands of the official. Things like that. Nope, they're not going to talk about those things because that would put the blame on them. And really, when you look at Iowa and why I am going to make fun of Iowa forever, but I'll just narrow it down a little and say, until Kirk Ferentz is no longer their coach, if you had a coach that actually cared about change, and I've talked about this a lot, good coaches look at what they're doing wrong and they change and they make changes to fix those issues. Iowa gained like 127 yards of total offense in this game. They did not lose this game because of this call. They lost this game because Kirk Ferentz's son is a bucket of shit as an offensive coordinator, and Kirk Ferentz isn't going to do a damn thing about it because he's convinced he's right. That's really what it comes down to for Iowa fans. And it's really kind of sad for them. I mean, it's not sad for me. It's sad for them. Because as good as their defense is, and as good as their special teams are, as good as Cooper DeJean is, you'd think if they cared about offense at all, that they would be in the college football playoff. But they're never going to get there. They're never going to get to be better than any of us in the Big Ten West. And that's kind of sad for a program because a guy won't change. Okay, I felt sorry for him just for a second there. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do with this video. We'll clean it up, ship it out. You guys can respond to it. This was the kind of the stupidest play of the week. Not because it was a really stupid play or the call was stupid, But the whole idea that Iowa doesn't have an offense that isn't going to do anything about it to change, that is the dumbest damn thing ever. Probably more than just this week, the entire season. But you know, we'll just leave it for this week for now. Thank you for your support. Take care of yourselves. Go Big Red.